Happy birthday if it's your birthday. Happy belated birthday if it's in the past. Happy future birthday if it's in the future. My name is Lime Green. Welcome to the Out of Time Podcast, the podcast where you, yes, you, vote for what game you want me to play for the first time ever. Last time, we played Sonic Mania and Mega Man Battle Network 2, but the time before that, we played Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and I said, pretty soon we're going to be playing Five Nights at Freddy's 4, and it's been a year, and I really thought we would be playing it sooner, but we got hung up on a couple of things. So before we talk about that, we got to talk about who made this game. Who made this game in particular? Particularly, I'm playing the Switch port, which is made by Click Team. I'm on their website right now. They specifically say, Click Team hopes to assist indie game developers who leverage Fusion for their work. And, they made Fusion. In addition to building their project against our exclusive, they misspelled exclusive, in-house runtime, which has been redeveloped for maximum performance on consoles. Our team of experienced developers will comb through your project line by line to pick up any issues. So they basically help small indie devs and, try and get them to consoles and, non-consoles like Steam and stuff. I usually talk about, hey, look at this big game. Look at that big game that they helped make. But now I'm going to talk about recently published games they helped publish, I guess. Wings of V, Lone Fungus, Slayin' 2, Polyroll, Cat Girl Without Salad, Oniken. There's this one game I saw. Yeah, what is this? It looked cool. I think I saw it in the eShop. Agelos. Just the art style looks cool. Might pick that up later. Who knows? But again, my history with FNAF as a series is well documented on this channel. I played the first game not too long ago on the podcast, and the second game and the third game. But, when the first game came out, I was like, oh man, what is this first game? This Five Nights at Freddy's, getting really popular. I'll admit I'm kind of a contrarian. When a game gets kind of popular, I'm like, is it all that good? I don't know. I'm kind of like that with, right now it's like Undertale, Deltarune. Is it really all that good? I guess, what else am I like that with? I was like that with, I guess, K-pop Demon Hunters. I guess I'm like that with Omori. I haven't played that yet. I don't know, just a lot of stuff. But I'm open-minded. That's why I started this podcast, to play games I wouldn't have played, to change my mind. I'm into FNAF, I think more so for the lore than the gameplay, and I think a lot of other people are too. And FNAF 4, I think, is really when the FNAFing, the lore thing kicked off in, like, really its peak theorizing. we'll talk about that like later. But I wanted to bring that out specifically now because I did a poll, and the poll said, "Hey, if I don't beat FNAF 4, can I just do the podcast?" Because, hey, FNAF 4 is really hard. I don't think I could beat that. Honestly, I beat FNAF 3. FNAF 3 was fun. FNAF 4 screams in my face when I lose. And I put up a poll, and nobody voted on it. So I'm just going to say I'm going to lean more into the lore than the gameplay on this one. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I might beat FNAF 4 later, but it screams in my face. And you have to turn up the volume, and it deafens you. And it's tough. It's tough. FNAF 4 is tough. People say FNAF 3 is tough. FNAF 4 is tough, and it makes you deaf. And it makes me sad. Of course, don't get it twisted. I'm not like a FNAF hater. I'm not trying to seek out flaws with this game. I played through FNAF 1 through 3. Saw the FNAF movie like right after, and I was on like such a FNAF high that voice actors for FNAF Security Breach were doing like an autograph signing online, and I was like, why not? And I got an autograph from one of the voice actors, and I was like, what? Again, why not? And that's how crazed I was into FNAF after playing FNAF 3. With all the backstory and stuff out of the way, let's actually talk about the game. Actually talk about FNAF 4. The menu starts with an eerie house in the background. Lots of blacks, lots of reds. Very unnerving. I said kind of looks like a movie poster. Again, this was supposed to be like the final one. If it was the final one, I would say, they nailed the scene of how a final movie would look. The aura. You hit night 1, and it's got a little cursive font. Now, I'm not really sure if the cursive has that, aura, but it's got a different type of feel to it. No phone calls. There's doors on either side of you and a closet door in front of you. You can also check behind you and shine a flashlight on the bed. It's very sound-based, like I said. Nothing happened for a long while. Oh, scrolled past my notes. I saw a few Freddy guys appear on the bed. I said, Gremlin Freds, Fredbits, Grim Fredbears. Fred would have popped off if he played FNAF. That's all I'm saying. Nightmare Freddy, I believe that's his name, appeared at the end of the right hallway and ducked away briefly. And that's basically all that happened night 1 for me. I cleared it first try. Like what people say, night 1 in FNAF games is fairly pretty easy. And then it goes into a plush trap minigame where you have to stop them on the axe. And if you win, you get 2 hours off the next day. I think this is a genius idea. Adds a little, not sure what you'd call it. I keep wanting to say complexity. I guess it's complexity, but nuance to FNAF. I failed. But just the idea of, hey, if you do good here, you don't have to do good in the game proper. Plus, it's like a little mini game to break up, I guess, the regular gameplay. I'll take whatever mini games or side material I can. I suppose this is the best time to talk about the other type of mini game in this game, the Atari type of mini games that are kind of like notorious throughout FNAF. If they were to like make an entire game out of just like this type of graphics and style, I'd be all for that. Into the Pit, I don't want to say has that, but it's as close as we're getting. FNAF World, I guess, also, but nonetheless, you get one of these before you even really start the game. It says 5 days until the party, and this little guy pops up. I don't even want to call him like what I think the community calls him, because again, I watch a couple of FNAF theory videos, and there's a name in my head, and I don't want to throw that out in the universe because that could be wrong. FNAF lore changes fast and it changes furious. So this figure then says, what did he do this time? He locked you in your room again. Don't be scared. I'm here with you. And then you get teleported to your room. You're playing as a small crying child. The crying child? I'm not sure. And you have a bunch of plushies. Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy. Foxy has no head. What's the reason? And the figure from before that was talking, he's on your bed and he's looking at you. And you're locked in your room. There's a lot to glean from this and a lot to theorize about. FNAF 4, it's the theory game. But let's talk about the next minigame that you get after night 1. Night 1, 4 days until the party. What's the party? I'm pretty sure I know what the party is. You explore the house, and every time you enter a room, the little eyes, they follow you around, and you go over to the television, and your brother jumps out with the head of your plushie, I guess, he's wearing it as a mask. I'm not sure how you can wear a plushie head, but he does. And the golden, I don't want to say it, golden Freddy fellow, he says, tomorrow's another day. And that's that one. Now let me interject there, a line from the past, with my own theory I just brewed up out of nowhere. What if, because I've seen some of the theories, what if some of the theories say that this Golden Freddy fellow that people say is teleporting all over with its supernatural powers, what if it's not that, but it's multiple fellows all over the house, right? Because how do we know they are the same plush, right? And this crying child, we don't know if it is the same crying child, the one we've seen in previous games, but this child is crying, so I'm not sure what to refer to this crying child as. But this child has plushes. They're known for plushes. So, is it out of the realm of possibility that they have multiple Golden Freddy fellow plushes all over the place? What do you think? I don't know. Final mini game we're going to be taking a look at this episode is the one after night 2. It starts with 3 days until the party. And, the crying child might not be the crying child. Who knows? Is underneath a table at big party. Looks like one of the Freddy Fazbear, Enterprise locations. Again, I've been to a Chuck E. Cheese. There's been plenty of kids crying and freaking out at, the animatronics or just like not getting enough tickets or whatnot. Our fellow Golden Freddy fellow says he left without you. He knows you hate it here. They couldn't go to like a baseball diamond or something. I don't know if this is the crying child quotations party. Why'd they go there? They go on to say you're right beside the exit. If you run, you can make it. Hurry, run towards the exit. So immediately when you gain control, you head towards the exit. But right before your eyes, an employee donning the garb of Golden Freddy Fellow appears before your eyes. And Golden Freddy Fellow himself says, it's not too late. Hurry the other way. Find someone who will help. You know what will happen if he catches you. Who's he? I have a pretty good feeling who he is. Again, I've made it up to this point, and I kind of have to not pretend like I don't know, but I have to unlearn a couple of things to try and put the pieces together in myself. I don't want to go into this experience and be like, oh, I know all the answers. I want to see how they came up with the answers. Show me your work, basically. So the crying child in apostrophes, you go the other way, and this is apparently a point where you'd have 2 different endings for a mini-game. I have to call it out. That's kind of wild. Just for an Atari-style mini-game, 2 different endings. Wild. You can either lie on the ground and cry, or if you go back right, you can see the purple guy putting a head on top of another employee. And what did Scott say the one time during the FNAF 4 live stream? What's perceived in the eyes of a child can be misconstrued or something. I don't know. What I do know is it is time to talk about night 2. Night 2, everybody. So night 2, it's basically the same as night 1, but tougher. Foxy's here, and I'll say Foxy's not as tricky as the others. Foxy's whole deal is if Foxy gets into your room, Foxy just runs into the closet, and you gotta be like, check the closet. And Foxy can be like multiple stages of Foxy. And you gotta like shine the flashlight and revert Foxy into a plush. And then you also have to contend with the little Freddy gremlins on the bed, and you have to contend with the doors and close the doors if there's sound. There's a lot to deal with in FNAF 4, and that's the reason why I could not beat Night 2. Again, sorry. I think eventually I could. Maybe one day I can. But, you know, for this, I think I'm going to stick with the lore, which picks up book, brings me to the based on the best-selling novel, Five Nights at Freddy's, The Silver Eyes, the graphic novel by Scott Cawthorn. I just realized there's no R. Claudia Schroeder and Kira Reesley. So I wanted to, sprinkle a little FNAF book in here because, we're focusing on the lore. And, this is the book that released around the same time as FNAF 4. So you may be asking, why did you get the graphic novel, Lime Green? Why not the book? The book with no pictures? Well, this is what I was thinking. So this was adapted from the Silver Eyes novel. That's what it says on the title. And I went online and I was like, all right, so what's the downside to getting the graphic novel? And people were saying, it takes out some things, right? And Scott Cawthon, he helped with this book specifically. So why would he take out some crucial parts of the lore, if there is any? That's what I was thinking. Like, why would he intentionally shoot this book in the leg or whatever? That doesn't make any sense. So that was my thinking. And I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is that a smart thinking to have? Plus, it has pictures, man. We can actually visualize the scenarios without visualizing with our imagine. Who needs imagination these days? So, just like how we went up to Night 2, we're going to go up to Chapter 2 in The Silver Eyes this episode. So, it opens, if you've ever seen the FNAF movie, you're going to see some similarities here. So, it opens with a kind of similar scene where our main character is in an arcade trying to hide from Foxy, and then Foxy sees her, and it's like, uh-oh, and it cuts to Chapter 1. That's your hook. You get it? All right. So Chapter 1. This is also kind of like the movie. Our main character, Charlie. I'm not really sure how old she would be, but she can drive. She comes home and she's like, I have 3 closets. I've heard of that from like FNAF videos. I think there's like a book later down the line called like The Fourth Closet or something. I think that's like a security breach type thing. I'm not sure. I'll worry about it when I get there. It took me a while to figure out what this Bonnie looking plush says. It says, I love you, Lee. I figured I figured out it probably says "I love you, Charlie." But I guess if you really want to theorize on it, it could be like you could stick anything in there. She's got like a little wind up type doll animatronic. She's got very advanced animatronics. She's meeting people, meeting friends at this diner. If you've if you've seen the movie, this is very reminiscent of the scene Matt Pat was at. And there's no ant in this scene, or no it's not called Sparky's either. It's just called the Hurricane Diner. Kind of generic. And they're like, boy, oh boy, remember the place, Five Nights at Freddy's place, the Freddy Fazbear place, where the body has never been found? Wasn't that a good place? Remember when someone threw up, Marla threw up, and it shows throw up. So that's why you get the graphic novel. You can see throw up. And then Charlie, our main character, is like, she must have had like a close encounter or something, because she runs out and forgets her jacket. And what's his name? The author character, John, is like, you forgot your jacket. And our main characters are John, Jessica, Carlton, and, Charlie. And they talk about all the good times at Freddy Fazbear's, like riding on the walls and eating greasy pizza and hiding under tables and hugging Freddy. Does he have yellow fur? Does he have brown fur? Who really knows? Who knows? So they decide, for old time's sake, let's go see the place for one last time. Why not? Why not? We're all older now. Let's reminisce about our childhood. So let's go. So that's chapter 1. The gang getting back together in Hurricane. I want to say Utah, but I'm not 100%. That might just be me with years and years of theorist videos I've watched under my belt, but all I know it's Hurricane. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2, the gang like Scooby-Doo's their way in there, and it's like a building built on top of Freddy Fazbear's. They're like, someone is here, and they point, and they're like, a night guard? Why would a night guard be guarding this abandoned building? And we're like, oh, that's us. And they find like what they wrote on the wall like a million years ago. And all right, so first off, here's my thing. Freddy Fazbear's, it's a questionable place at best. But second off, nobody stopped them, and nobody wiped it down. Which ties into a story where I kind of understand, where back in elementary school, I and my friends wrote on the school and with chalk, but it was on the outside of the school, which is why I don't understand how they could write on the inside of a building and get away with it. Like, our message, I think, was just like what it was, like our names, Like, I don't know how they could. First off, it looks like they misspelled their name, and like, so whoever wrote that, like, they show in the graphic novel, they look like they're like 4, so, or like 5. So Freddy Fazbear, if you want any more proof that their employees don't care, that's the proof. The proof's in the pudding. So they back to the story. They navigate the hallways and then they find Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and they look pretty much the same. I have to ask if they would ever rust. Like a rusted design would look pretty cool for them. And they're like, boy, oh boy, they look taller. Maybe they look or got taller. They themselves got taller. And they look at the carousel, and if you turn the page back, the carousel design like changed a little bit from, yeah. Maybe I'm like going crazy, but it looks different in the other picture. Jessica is like, let's check out Pirate's Cove, and she begins to take off the curtain for Foxy, and what's his name? I want to say John. Yeah, he's like, oh, I just knocked over a bunch of pots in the kitchen, and they're like, uh-oh, the guard might have heard that. Let's get out of here, Scoob. So, if I was in this scenario, first off, I would be like really scared. Second off, I don't think I would be like, I would be all about the animatronics. I'd be like, cool. I'd be like, I'd just be like one stop on my adventure. Like, Charlie's looking at art on the walls that the kids made. Like, sure. But one part of, I guess, Chuck E. Cheese, if we have to compare it again, is like the little play park or whatever. You know, I'd be doing that, you know, going through little hamster tubes or whatever. Like, there's gotta be more they did at Freddy Fazbear's than just like eat pizza and talk to the animatronics, right? Like, what the adults do? Like, I feel like that nebulous question is kind of funny, but it's also kind of like leaves it more eerie, you know? Everyone is like, boy, that was fun. See you tomorrow. And then it kind of like goes into like a, I'm not sure what you'd call it, like a flashback cutaway into where like a shell of a animatronic is like coming out of a kitchen cupboard, and it's staring at a little girl unbeknownst to her father. And that's the chapter 2 cliffhanger. So what did we learn? How did that help us in the FNAF 4 lore? I'm not really sure so far. I know Charlie is a big name we say, or I've seen in like FNAF lore or FNAF theories. The other couple names, I think I've heard John before. Jessica, Carlton. I've definitely not heard Carlton. But I'm not sure. We'll have to keep going. I wonder if the other books will be like as adaptable or will be adapted into the next movie, because the movie's coming out pretty soon here. But we'll have to see here. Moving on to our final subject, you're probably like, well, I'm Green. What are you going to talk about now? You've talked about the game. You've talked about the people that made the game. You've talked about the book. What else is there to talk about? I'm leaving. No, hold on. Reels you back in. I wanted to also talk about, at the end of each episode now, a game I've been playing in the background. Not so much, go over the entire game, just, a little snippet, I guess, of the game. You guys didn't vote for this game, but it's a game that I played, and I'm sneaking in here, and it's tangentially related to FNAF. They're all not going to be somehow related to FNAF, but, I wanted to make this one special, because it's the first episode and whatever. Can you guess which one, or which game is related to FNAF somehow? I mentioned it in FNAF 1, FNAF 2, FNAF 3, when I was talking about those games in the previous episodes. I apparently mentioned it a lot on this channel. Made in the Click Team Fusion Engine. The last game I played on this podcast, I also compared it to this game. It's Freedom Planet. Started off as a Sonic fan game and just kind of evolved into its own thing. I kind of really like that. I kind of wish more like indie or fan creations would almost have like a, I know it's like a lot of work, but I kind of wish they'd have like a backup plan in case like companies would be like, hey, we're gonna take over and tell you no. But I started playing this game, and kind of the fact that like I liked I wanted to say Sonic Forces, Sonic Mania. I liked Sonic Mania. It was pretty good. That was the last podcast game, if you couldn't tell, and or if you didn't see it. And I also need like a good little 2D type of game. I'm not a big 2D type of fan. And also, I was on vacation, and I saw this YouTuber, channel, Blue Chair, linked in the description. They're talking about a Freedom Planet ARG, and that caught my attention for some reason. I'm not really big into ARGs actually, but just like everything kind of aligned. And I've said on the channel, I have it on Wii U. I got it free on Wii U with like Nintendo points or whatever. And I'm like, alright, I'll cave. I'll buy it on Switch. Switch 2, actually. And that was like one of the first purchases on the eShop I got for Switch 2. Really, let me just advertise. The colors popped off the screen. Really wonderful looking. Especially, it was a fresh Switch 2. especially going from the Switch to Switch 2, it was a bigger screen. And I said before, I really got stuck with the Hollow Dragon part, and I'll say a lot of the bosses, they ramp up in difficulty out of nowhere. There's a steep learning curve, I guess. Other than that, I really like I don't know how to say it. Like, you move fast, and then you just grab onto stuff, and like stuff happens, and like there's not. Again, I haven't played too many Sonic games, but I like just going fast, and then stuff just happens around you. And then Lilac has this boost. I've only beaten Lilac's route, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Is that really beating the whole game? I'm not entirely sure, but it was a pretty good game. Not really big on the story. If anything, I'd say the story was the weakest part. But there's a sequel, so maybe the sequel will pull me back in, or maybe the other routes. So that's me talking about Freedom Planet. But what do you think of Freedom Planet? Did you know that they were made in the same engine? I hope so, because I've talked about it a fair amount of times on the channel. Let me know in the comments below what you think of FNAF 4 and Freedom Planet. Until next time, bye-bye.